All right, everybody, welcome. Today I have a representative from BlockNet. Would you like to introduce yourself, and we will go over a bit about what we're going to talk about today?
Sure. Hi, guys. I'm Hanni. I am the project coordinator over at BlockNet, which is an interoperability protocol meant to connect blockchains.
So we've been talking with you for a little while now. I remember the first time that I tried your product was basically last year, and I jumped into Discord and you sent me, I think it was like a kind of like a pre-beta or something like that, but it was mind-blowing the first time I saw it. The ease of the transfer between me and a Litecoin wallet, and I was able to send and receive the private keys never left my computer. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that? Maybe about how you got into the idea and how BlockNet fits in?
Yeah, it's very exciting. I actually wasn't here from the beginning, but the idea is that the whole idea of blockchain is to put control into the people. And right now with centralized exchanges, that's not really cutting it. So part of the missing key in blockchain at the moment is identity, interoperability, and those are the two big tiers that seem to be remaining. So part of interoperability comes exchange. So we are building a protocol that allows for coins to be traded directly peer-to-peer, wallet to wallet. So let's say you had DigiByte and Monocoin. If you have both of the wallets on your computer, you can actually trade from one of those wallets directly to the other with no middleman and no intermediary.
So that's obviously incredibly important as well from the, I suppose, the whole like original Satoshi vision, if you want to go that way, or even just from the really like the whole aspect of you're only in control of your coins if they're in if you've got the private key, really. And so by sending them to a third-party exchange, you obviously do away with that. So do you want to talk a little bit about the importance there, or about
yeah. So something to look out there to inform our users a little bit more about the centralized exchanges. Exchanges can really be broken down into four different components. You have your capital storage, which is where you pretty much store your crypto. You have the order books, the order matching process, as well as the actual exchange of the assets. Typically, when you hear of a decentralized exchange, they really only have one, two, maybe three of those components actually decentralized. Personally, we like to call it hybrid exchanges because of that, because some components are decentralized, but then there are also components that are centralized. And that I feel is very misleading to the crypto community to call that decentralized. It kind of leads them to feel safe when that really isn't necessarily the case. So with BlockNet in specific, to go by each of those components, for capital storage, you are keeping your funds in your own wallet, and the private key you already have, the wallet you already have on your computer, in your control, the whole process from beginning to the end. Then for the order books and the order matching, that process is managed across our service nodes, which are similar to master nodes, but they carry a little bit more of responsibility, and that's why we like to call them service nodes. So what they do is they carry full nodes of each blockchain that the protocol is compatible with.
Oh, wow, okay.
So yeah, so that's how we pretty much decentralize it. And at the moment, there's around 420 nodes. So there's definitely a good number of them. And that's not a maximum limit or anything. That's just the amount that there is at the moment. Pretty much the maximum is however many our circulation allows. But those service nodes verify and sync the order books as well as the order matching process. So you can ensure that there's no single party involved there. and there's no real way to game it unless you have 51% of the service nodes or more. That's when it starts to become a little bit more easier. I guess you can kind of look at it in the sense that the same way a blockchain is vulnerable, that'd kind of be the same way that the service nodes would be vulnerable. It's pretty much a DHT network overlay that's I guess you could say it's very similar to the way ISPs work for the internet in a sense, where they pretty much just help connect the different peers, and then everything else is just directly from one client to the other, and again, no middleman. And then the actual asset exchange component is done through atomic swaps, which is Bitcoin's one of Bitcoin's underlying protocols that allows for a trustless escrow of sorts.
Nice.
Yeah, and this is really a cornerstone to interoperability, because when you're talking about different applications and dApps and blockchains interacting, that's all done through exchange. Most people, because of the term cryptocurrency and the investment aspect, they tend to think of an exchange as just monetary value, but that can also be used to transfer information as well.
Yeah, so I mean, that was one of the interesting things that I was thinking about before, was potentially you could use something like BlockNet to essentially shift like a colored coin or something similar, or similar other kind of data from one blockchain directly to another. Is that?
Yeah. Yes. I'll give a good example, or rather two examples. And these are pretty much our go-to examples, because they explain fairly easily the what's possible and what is capable of. So let's say you're DigiByte, and if I'm not mistaken, you guys don't have any kind of storage functionality on your blockchain, correct? So
well, we've got OP return, but that's 80 bytes. But yeah.
Yeah. Let's say you guys did want to offer that. You would be able to tie in services from Siacoin or storage to be able to offer that to your users, and that's for existing blockchains. You can pull in different applications. Where we see this going in the long run is going from a monolithic architecture, which is how blockchains are created now. You have all these blockchains creating these huge bloated chains, trying to fit everything that they can possibly think of into one, throw all these buzzwords in there, see how much stuff it can do. That's kind of what the ecosystem is now, unfortunately. But we definitely see it turn.
Come back to me.
Where you would have blobs, storage for blobs, and storage for microtext and little bits of information. You might have an identity chain, all these different chains that have very specific purposes. That way, a lot of effort can be put into that to make sure it does it well, it does it efficiently. And it makes it a lot more lightweight when it does only one thing. And you could kind of pull in these different services from these microservice blockchains in a similar fashion to how traditional software is done with utilizing, let's say, libraries, for instance.
Right. So you don't have to worry about being a master of, a jack of all trades and a master of none. You can actually then, I suppose, focus on, let's do one thing, let's do it really well, let's do storage, let's do microtransactions, let's do.
And it allows the developers actually creating dApps to concentrate on the business logic. So you no longer have to build things up from scratch, and it really helps make things blockchain agnostic, because it no longer matters what chain you're building on, because you can pull in all these services from all these other chains. So it really widens the possibility of what you can do, and it enables us to then reach real world needs for blockchains. Because right now, I think we could all agree that we're just not cutting it in terms of what's needed. Because if you think about the future of, let's say, supply chain, in today's world, you have different enterprises that are, they have a bunch of different software stacks. No two companies alike. There's some variation or complete variation between them. And that's how we envision the same thing happening with blockchain. So let's say you have a pharmaceutical manufacturer, right? They're going to be using a different blockchain from their material supplier, and then after that to the transportation company, and then the endpoint. So certain information is going to need to be transferred due to regulation. So let's say they need to be able to check the temperature and humidity of the drugs in transit to the endpoint to make sure that it's not out of range and could potentially be causing the drugs to expire early or grow mold or something like that. They'd be able to access this information to pull into their systems and do what they need to do on their side with this logic.
Nice. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I can see there's obviously you are basically, like with BlockNet, you are the glue that ties, say for example, DigiByte to pretty much anything else then in terms of being able to offer that interoperability. And yeah, I mean, what would you say to something like that?
No, I would completely agree. For instance, I recently, not too long ago, just found out about DigiID, which is a fantastic product, by the way. I mean, I haven't used it personally, but looking at the demonstrations, YouTube, it's fantastic. It looks like it's easy to use, and it seems like something that would be a prime candidate to be tied into other services as a account verification tool similar to Google Authenticator.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's interesting. We've just released our website today for it as well. So we're hoping to kind of show the world a little bit more about it and get some more interest in it, get some more people on board. But yeah, it is very much the kind of thing where we're obviously seeing we don't need usernames, passwords. It is the two-factor authentication side as well. So yeah, you could do away with Google Authenticator entirely one day. I mean, let's dream big here, right? Like,
unless there's a Google coin. You never know.
So we're hit, but it's so we've just released the website digi-id.io today. So I mean, if you want to jump on and have a nosy. What are your thoughts, I suppose, when it comes to interoperability and how that relates to things like other second layer networks such as Lightning Network, or we've seen Ethereum talking about doing similar sort of things. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so we envision the BlockNet protocol being utilized in the same sense as a second layer protocol. We see ourselves as being used behind the scenes. You know, if it is to be a protocol that is designed properly, then it shouldn't really be seen through the end user. Again, like the internet, like someone that doesn't know of the internet doesn't know what it is because it's not used in this interaction right now. You know, there's no need for me as a user to need to interact at all other than clicking buttons on the interface that is created through this application.
Yeah, well, exactly. It doesn't matter if you bring up your phone and you join the Wi-Fi. You don't need to know about the 7 different layers. You don't need to know about TCP/IP. You don't care about SSL. You're just like, I want to use Skype today.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm happy you brought up the 7 layers because we actually had a pretty good comparison to that we actually kind of laid out the other day. So in the traditional 7 layers, you have layer 1, which is the actual material, the lines that are being laid out. Layer 2, that's the bridge layer. For BlockNet, that would be what we call X bridge. It's what actually connects the different blockchains. Layer 3 and 4 for the internet is IP and TCP/UDP. For BlockNet, it would be what we call XChat. It's what we would be using to actually send communications to the different blockchains. And then layer 5, and 5, 6, 7, which is getting onto the application layer. That's where we have what we call X wallets, which are pretty much the wallets that are hosted by the service nodes that are used for reference, and that actually becomes useful through our we call it X router. We like to prefix everything with X.
You guys have X, we have Digi. It's totally fine.
So X router is actually going to be a router for all these services that are available through the X wallet. So basically, any service that you can access through a wallet, any different call, any information that you can access through there will be accessible through X router, which will be the first blockchain router that really helps develop, in a true sense, the internet of blockchains, as we like to call it.
So that will be you'll be able to access that from any blockchain. So you could run a call and do the same thing with, say, Litecoin as DigiByte as Monocoin.
You'd be able to access it from a dApp or a blockchain using our APIs. But there's still a little bit of work to be done on that. X router isn't live yet. We're working on a few things at the moment. So we have SPV, which is coming out. It's slated for July 1st.
Nice.
If my memory serves me correctly. And that will no longer require the users to have the blockchains of the coins they're trading to be downloaded and synced. Because especially on our decentralized exchange called BlockDex, it's a little bit of a hassle to need to download 380 gigabytes of Bitcoin or whatever it is to need to do a few trades. That's not the most ideal thing. So we're working on a few usability features.
Nice. That's cool.
And really, I mean, it's not necessarily usability. It's needed too, because if you have a dApp, you don't want to ask your users, hey, can you download this, and this blockchain to use our blockchain?
Yes.
That's not the way it really should work.
But I mean, at the same time, I guess you started off with you've done the groundwork to go there, I suppose, and certainly for myself looking at it, because when I tried it with Bitcoin, Litecoin, DigiByte, and Monocoin, and to be able to shift back and forth with all of them without those private keys having to leave, yeah, it takes a while for you to download the Bitcoin blockchain because that thing's freaking massive. But aside from that, you know, it's
yeah, and that's the beauty of this protocol too. You know, there's on centralized exchanges, you tend to have coin pairs, right? You can only trade against Bitcoin or USD, USDT, or Ether.
Yeah.
With this, you can there's complete trading pair freedom. So again, you know, if you want to do Monocoin and DigiByte and PIVX, DigiByte and Bitcoin, so you don't necessarily need to download the full Bitcoin blockchain. You know, especially once we have Ethereum and ERC20 integration, I can foresee a lot of trading being concentrated around DAI, since that's a stable coin pinned to the dollar.
Okay. Nice. All right. Yeah. I mean, okay. What I kind of know the answer here, but what are your thoughts on the different speeds of the coins, obviously, and this is kind of where I get to shield DigiByte a little bit because we're fast, but when you were developing, how did that affect things, especially, and even now in terms of real-world usage, the different speeds between, say, Bitcoin being 10 minutes, DigiByte being 15 seconds for the block timings? How does that...
Yeah, it's definitely a huge hassle. I mean, 10-minute block time, that's very, you know, archaic in the crypto sense. We believe it definitely should be less than that, but that's actually caused us to create some solutions, which is if you're trading on BlockDex, you can actually select the minimum amount of confirmations that you want. So let's say you want to do 0 confirmation trading or 1 confirmation or 2 confirmation tradings, then the trade won't actually fully execute until that minimum amount is met on each side. So let's say you want, we're trading Bitcoin and let's say DigiByte, right? And we each want 1 confirmation. DigiByte may get 12, 15, maybe even 20 confirmations by the time that Bitcoin actually gets 1. Yeah. And the exchange actually takes place.
Once you get that 1 confirmation on both sides.
Yeah, so there's not really that need to wait for all the confirmations needed. And if you do 0 confirmations, I mean, I believe trades take place in like 2 minutes, something like that.
The video that I made last year,
and it depends on what you're doing.
Yeah. But we were talking, it was, I think when I say instant, it was pretty much instant. The whole video that I did from start to finish was less than 2 minutes. So, they're fast.
Yeah.
In terms of, like, what are your thoughts with, what's the best way for me to word this? In terms of blockchains, I suppose, not just like getting along, but in terms of like finding a similar niche. And do you think that BlockNet will potentially be able to help bring certain chains together? I mean, I know that's kind of your whole motto, I suppose, but
yeah, that is pretty much our motto. Our goal is to bring blockchains and communities together. Yeah, you tend to see this whole kind of mindset that's similar to sports, where it's like, oh no, my chain's better than yours. Yeah. And there's a lot of fighting, but at the end of the day, I mean, really for us to succeed, we have to work together because, it's blockchain won't succeed in the current state that it is now, where you're trying to fit a whole supply chain stack into a single blockchain. That's just outrageous. But yeah, we definitely see the need for cooperation. And that's why we're looking to really work with everyone. We have no enemies. Even projects like KMD, they have Komodo, they have their DEX, barter DEX.
Yep.
Some of the community members seem to think that they're enemies. Yeah, we have differences between the way we're doing things. But at the end of the day, I believe we both need each other to kind of succeed because, we both need liquidity, and that's really going to be done by bots. So I see no reason why we should have any bad blood against each other, because at the end of the day, we're going to be working off of each other to move each other forward. And the same thing goes with projects like AION and some of the other interoperability projects out there. Again, we're doing things a little bit differently, such as on BlockNet, we integrate all the other chains. Well, if I'm not mistaken, I don't want to claim it as fact, but from what I understand, AION asks other chains to integrate and create the bridges
the other way around.
Yeah, which we don't see as necessarily sustainable, simply because the way that we're doing it, once we create enough bridges, the amount of clauses that we need to add in for new coins becomes less and less and less, to the point where once you have a certain amount of clauses in there, the chances of a new coin being compatible will be like 99.9%.
Yeah.
But again, not to say that they're doing it wrong. It's just a different way. Their way might work out in the long run. But at the end of the day, we're both working together to bring these communities together. And yeah, I don't think there should be any reason to fight each other. You know, we're all here to succeed and move the blockchain space forward.
Nice. That was very well articulated. I like it. How do you think? So I need a moment to just kind of like take that all in, really. Now, like with that's, I mean, it's interesting. How much of, so during the development, obviously, you've said that you were doing the integration yourself with each of the wallets, and so I know that originally that took a fair amount of time. What do you want to talk a little bit about what was involved with that, or?
Yeah. So again, I'm not a developer, but from what I understand, we essentially make bridges for groups of types of coins,
right?
And then you have a bunch of fallbacks for the variations of the coins. So, for instance, some chains might do slight changes to RPC calls.
Yep.
So, you know, instead of get blockchain info, it might just become blockchain info on this fork for whatever reason. I don't know.
Just to be different, just because you can.
Yeah, right. There's no reason you should be touching that. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm talking about is just having fallbacks for calls like that, so that you have those variations covered, and eventually you'll have a ton of these fallbacks where, you know, it becomes less and less likely as time goes on that new coins won't be compatible.
Nice. Yeah, that's cool. So do you want to talk a little bit more, I suppose, about you mentioned previously the different aspects of interoperability, about how, you know, DigiByte could be used for, let's say, payments or for document notarization, and then we can hook into Siacoin for, you know, bulk storage. What do you want to talk a little bit more about things like that, about the interoperability and how you see that general kind of playing out?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know when it's going to happen, but we're almost certain it will happen, that we'll start seeing these single service blockchains coming out. And I think it's really going to start happening as these interoperability protocols arise. You know, there's a few of us trying to do this. So as we become usable, people will naturally start trying to tie in these services, you know, such as that example of Siacoin. I don't know how to say it.
Yep.
And yeah. So I believe people will start trying to tie in services of existing blockchains like that.
Right.
And then I think that's when we'll kind of see this light bulb moment where people are realizing that this is kind of the direction it's going. And then we'll start seeing more of these microservice blockchains kind of popping up. And BlockNet kind of has some plans for this. I don't know if I'm really supposed to be talking about it. So I'm going to just kind of leave it at that. I don't want to say too much.
It's always the joys of live streaming, right? Is there's going to be somebody who's going to be out there on the internet, and they're recording this, and they're going to remember, and they'll be like, you said 2 months ago, and yeah.
It'll all come back to that.
Yeah, that's cool, though. It's, yeah, I like that.
It'll be interesting to see how this plays out, especially since I think some of this is going to come from the, I guess the private sector, because they're really going to have the need for that. That, you know, everything right now is pretty much focused towards crypto users, not really enterprise. And there's like Hyperledger working on that, but that's private chains. I think they're going to start having their eyes looking at public chain solutions, and that's when you're going to tend to see the demand from these companies when you're talking to their development department where they're asking about like, oh, okay, well, like that example before, we have our suppliers and we have our our warehouse programs and we have our transportation. How's this all going to work together? And that's really an answer that nobody really has yet because there's no true functioning interoperability protocol as of yet. But yeah, I think that's really what will end up driving the demand for this type of microservice architecture.
Nice. So I mean, I'm going to presume there is, if we go to check out the BlockNet website, we've got some budding developers, obviously, that are out there going to be watching this eventually. If they want to find out a bit more about using that sort of thing.
So we have a beta API that will be coming out in the next. It's kind of been put off a little bit, but for real this time, there was never really a hard date put on it.
Yeah.
It's just something we've kind of been working towards. But a beta should be out probably in the next 2 weeks.
Nice.
Which people can start to play around with. If they wanted to, they could start developing, let's say like Shapeshift type of services to include in the wallets. Like let's say in the DigiByte wallet, if you wanted the ability for people to buy DigiByte or exchange DigiByte for other coins within the wallet, that's doable. So I mean, like BlockDex, all that's built off of our BlockNet protocol. So it's all done in a trustless, decentralized manner. Since all the functionality is derived directly from the protocol, and since the order book is on our network, any services that are built on the protocol actually share liquidity. So if you were to create your own white label decentralized exchange using this API, as soon as you go live, you'll be able to see any orders that are coming in from our decentralized exchange.
Nice. That's very cool.
Yeah,
and I know the difficult part as well of development is someone says, when is this going to be ready? And it's like, oh, how long is a piece of string? And we want to allow an extra little bit of time for this. Yeah.
So I mean, just to clarify and I guess mitigate expectations, it's usable, but there's definitely things to be desired. Again, people have made trades on our exchange. Nobody's lost funds, but there are a few bugs here and there, and that's kind of why it's dubbed as our beta.
Nice.
So it should be noted to proceed with caution. But yeah, it's something that we are excited about. It's working. It's live. But yeah, still a ways to go as with most of the projects. We have our goals set high.
Nice.
Put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, hey, why not? You've got to shoot for the sky. I mean, what's worst that can happen is you reach it, right? So,
what's it if you fall short, you land on the moon?
Yeah, I mean that's.
We're going to the moon.
That was good. I like that. What? I mean, it's
stuck that in there.
Yeah. You'll jump on Discord later on. Everyone's going to be going, yes, he said we're going to the moon. So you've covered your bases, right? Like it's cool. What's the best way, I guess? So I know that you have you're on Discord now. Is it instead you moved from Slack?
Yeah, there was that whole issue back in the day where all of a sudden Slack started getting spammed by everyone, and there was a few scams going on, and then they locked all automatic invites. So yeah, we migrated everyone over to Discord, which link can be found on our website, which is blocknet.co, not .com, .co, where you could also find a newsletter sign up if you want to stay up to date on all the events happening within BlockNet. We release newsletters every 2 weeks, on the 15th of the month and on the 30th of the month, unless it's February. It'll be the 29th or 28th. But yeah, it's a great way to stay up to date if you don't want to follow every single tweet and message coming out of a chat.
Yeah, nice. That's cool. And so I guess the other thing is what sort of users would you say are ready to use BlockNet at the moment? I mean, I've tried it, I've used it, it's cool, it works like you said, no problems. Is this more? Would you say you've got to be really experienced, or?
Yeah. So in the current state, it'd be better if you're a tech savvy user. We have improved our documentation to help people set up to begin trading, but we're currently working on the setup process. Right now, you have to edit some config files. If you follow the YouTube video. And we also have a text version of the docs. It's generally easy enough for most people to follow.
Yeah. Bit of copy and paste and you're good.
Yeah, but if there, we'd like to streamline it. Our goal is to be able to fire up the decks and not have to edit any files.
Nice.
We want to abstract everything, and any kind of information that is needed will be done through the UI. So that's actually something that we're working on right now.
Very cool.
Don't have a timeline for it, unfortunately. But it's something that we initiated and is in progress. So hopefully soon, within a few weeks, it'll be to a point where you can just download the app, fire it up, download and sync your chains, and begin trading.
Nice.
And then even once we have SPV wallets, that'll get to the point where users won't need to actually download the chains, provided we have a light wallet or some kind of functionality similar to that. We're still trying to work out the details there. We're hoping to either possibly partner with a light wallet, maybe even an open source one.
Yep.
That way, I guess there's just less risk for a brand name. That way they're not taking a chance with their brand. And we might find other ways to make that work without a third party.
Yep.
But again, we're still exploring it. But the goal there is where you will be able to fire up the decks, and you won't need to download the chains to begin trading. You can just pretty much import your wallet.dat files all locally.
That's cool.
And then access those to trade, and then it'll actually be referencing the service nodes.
Yep.
To access all chain information and match up your UX TOs, so we can track and make sure that people aren't overspending when they're trading and things of that sort.
That's fantastic. Nice. I guess it's pretty late there for you, I understand.
Yeah, it's getting close to 1 a.m.
Do we want to kind of wrap this up then? We'll let you get a little bit of sleep. It's obviously pretty late. What would you like to add to this?
It's definitely a good talk, and I hope this was informative to some of the users, both in educating them what interoperability is, because I know some people aren't familiar with that.
Yeah.
As well as what BlockNet is and what some potential use cases are for DigiByte in the future. Hopefully some developer pops up and is willing to contribute to making some sort of plug-in system for DigiID that can be included in other services. I think that'd be pretty awesome if somebody did something like that.
We're working on it. That's the goal, right?
Nice.
Yeah. Hey, look, thank you so much as well. This has been a pleasure. Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap this up then?
No. It was definitely nice talking to you. This is actually our first time speaking for those of you that are watching. Yep. But it was definitely a pleasure, Joe.
Yeah, thank you, mate. I'm sure we will end up doing something similar as well. Keep us up to date as well with what's happening with BlockNet, because it's great. The team there, you've got a great bunch of people and things. I love what you're doing with the whole being decentralized, because that's something that we value so much, especially at DigiByte. It's so important, and a lot of people we found have come in specifically in the last sort of 6 to 9 months, and they just don't quite get the just why it's so important. So we love what you guys are doing, being so decentralized with that, and allowing the direct atomic swaps, things like that too. I think it's so fantastic, and
thank you.
Thank you and the team.
Appreciate it, Joe.
All right, man. We'll wrap this up then.
All right.
Have a good
night.
one.